Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name's Megan, and I'm so excited to be here alongside my fellow Scarlet Ambassador, Chelsea, and the president of Rutgers University, President Jonathan Holloway. Tonight, we're going to be discussing with President Holloway his vision for the beloved community at Rutgers, about what it means, and about our commitment to creating and fostering that community here at Rutgers. So we're going to get into it. My name is Megan. Like I said, I'm a senior in the School of Arts and Sciences and the Edward J. Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy, double majoring in statistics and public policy. Here at Rutgers, I'm the president of the Women's Club Lacrosse team. I'm a member of the Honors College, and of course, I'm a member of our wonderful Scarlet Ambassador team at undergraduate admissions. I've studied abroad in Brussels, Belgium first semester during my time at Rutgers, and I've also held a number of internships, such as with the Office of Defense Services in Delaware and the office of Congressman Frank Pallone, who's actually the congressman of our New Brunswick Piscataway area where Rutgers is located. I've also am currently working on my senior honors thesis in the Blaustein Honors Research Program, which is on the Democratic 2020 National Democratic Presidential Primary. I've lived on campus for 2 years on College Avenue campus, and I've lived off campus right off of College Avenue for 2 years as well. And now I'm going to hand it over to Chelsea to introduce herself.
Thanks so much, Megan. Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea. I'm also a senior in the School of Arts and Sciences, double majoring in economics and political science with a minor in philosophy on a pre-law track. I am also a part of the Honors College and a part of the True Inclusion student team working towards curriculum changes for diversity and inclusion at the HC. I'm also heavily involved with undergraduate research in the humanities, beginning with the Lloyd C. Gardner Fellowship in Leadership and Social Policy. After that program, I pursued a senior honors thesis with the economics department, investigating the intersection of crime and tax policy, which I've recently finished, so I'm celebrating that. I've also had the amazing experience of studying abroad at the University of Hong Kong in my sophomore year. I lived on the College Avenue campus in my first year, but since then I've been a commuter because my hometown is Piscataway, New Jersey. And while my Rutgers career is coming to a close soon, I'll be attending law school in the fall, and I can't wait to come back as an alum. So with that being said, President Holloway, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan Holloway. I'm the president of Rutgers. I've been in this job since July 1st, 2020. So when you do come to campus in this fall, and we'll be gates wide open, welcoming you, I will be experiencing Rutgers for the first time with you as far as a live experience. And I cannot wait for that to happen. I've been in New Jersey now for 9 months, and like all of you, been more or less living in a bubble and managing the challenges of that experience. But I'm really feeling optimistic about that bubble popping in the next couple of months and having a full charged university experience just waiting for you to make the most of it, like Megan and Chelsea have done themselves in their time here.
Oh yeah, it's so great to have you with us tonight, President Holloway, and I'm so jealous of all those prospective students who might be listening tonight who are just starting out on their Rutgers journey and have those 4 years ahead of them, because I would do it all over again if I could. Absolutely. So a little bit of the structure of the program tonight. We're going to be talking with President Holloway. We have a few questions for him, but at the end of the program, we're also going to be taking any of your questions. So if you have any questions throughout the discussion, feel free to put them in the YouTube live stream chat box, and we'll be pulling some of those at the end of the night. We also have a few Scarlet ambassadors who are going to be monitoring that live chat box, so they might be typing back some questions to you as well as we're talking. So we're going to get right into it. Our first topic tonight is about choosing your community, choosing a college. And when you choose a college, it's way more than just choosing where you're going to sit in a classroom, where you're going to pursue a degree. It's about choosing that community, choosing a belonging. And you have to think about what's going to draw you to a place and draw you to be a part of that larger whole. So our question for you, President Holloway, is what drew you to Rutgers? What was it about Rutgers, New Brunswick specifically that made you want to take this position as president and move to New Jersey?
Well, thanks for the question. I was living in Illinois, in Evanston, working as the provost, the number 2 at the university at Northwestern. And I wasn't interested in looking for a job. And that's for family reasons. My son is now a senior in high school. We weren't going to move anywhere. And I was approached about this job. Would I put my name in the hat? And like, well, it's a great school, so that's not the reason. But I said no because of family reasons. Then I kept thinking about it, and they circled back, are you sure? And I kept thinking about it. once I looked a little more carefully, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really interesting. And what made it so interesting to me is looking at, I already knew Rutgers was a great school on the academic side. I'm a professor of history, and in the world which I live in, Rutgers is just a giant in that area. So the idea of Rutgers as a professional home from an academic standpoint, it's kind of a no-brainer. Of course, that'd be a great opportunity. But then when I looked at what the Rutgers student body looked like, looked like in a visual sense, sure, it's very diverse, as you all know, but diversity expressed in every kind of way I can imagine. Not just, what we might physically look like, but where we call home, what language is the first language at home, what our socioeconomic status at home is, whether it's home overseas, is it in Piscataway or is it, in Michigan, just to pick a random state, whether coming to college whether the undergraduate was going to be the first in their family to go to college. I mean, you take all these different experiences together, and it became really compelling. And what was compelling is that, to me, Rutgers embodies the democratic possibilities of this country. Now, that may sound a bit over the top to you, but I really, really mean it, that Rutgers is a place, if you can cross that academic threshold to be admitted, you are going to be part of a community that has welcomed people from all different kinds of backgrounds, regardless of income, birth nation, language, college-going tradition. It's going to be all this noise, and I mean that noise in the best way, coming together, and that if we do it right, that noise turns into something really quite beautiful. That's what this country, that's how it's been organized, at least the ideal of it. And the possibility of being at a place that represents that ideal, I couldn't say no to the opportunities. My wife and I talked about it, and she looked at it as well, and she goes, yeah, you need to apply for this job, and so, which means I'm commuting now. My wife and son are in Evanston for 6 more weeks, then we're all back together again. But that's why I got excited about the possibilities that Rutgers represented for itself, for me, and for the world.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I think the diversity of Rutgers is just one of the things that makes this university so valuable, and in the education that we're offered here. And I see that diversity most acutely in the classroom. It's not, like you said, it's not just visual diversity, but it's also diversity of thought and experiences and backgrounds. And that does make Rutgers so special. And, for me, coming out of high school, something that drew me to Rutgers is I was so undecided that I started out in the School of Art, or I still am in the School of Arts and Sciences, but I came here in the School of Arts and Sciences, and I was so undecided that I could have ended up graduating from the School of Engineering or the Rutgers Business School, like literally anything except maybe the Mason Grove School of the Arts. I can't say that I'm musically or artistically talented in any way. But my point is that I knew, like, coming to Rutgers, there was gonna be a path here for me. The student body is so diverse, but so is the academic opportunities and the extracurricular opportunities. And I just program for me. And it turned out to be completely right, because I've been able to double major across 2 completely different schools in 2 completely different areas, statistics and policy. And I honestly feel like I've had a world-class education in both of those areas. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so glad that I chose Rutgers, because, I think that that's something so unique that Rutgers offers. It's just such a diverse number of classes and schools and opportunities for its students. Chelsea, what are your thoughts on this? What drew you to Rutgers?
So being down the road from Rutgers my whole life, it was a no-brainer to definitely apply. But what was really drawing me was kind of the constant support that I received from Rutgers. I mean, when I say we were down the road, I had my high school graduation at the Livingston Campus. So it was kind of through and through, it was Rutgers all the way. But starting in 7th grade, I was identified to be part of the Rutgers Future Scholars Group. And that socioeconomic support was something that no other institution could offer me and my family. And then beyond that, I was kind of opposite of Megan, where I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go to law school. I knew I wanted to double major in economics and political science. So the best academic choice with me was to look at where the Rutgers graduates who came from these departments, what they end up doing. And what they ended up doing in 5 and 10, 15 years was exactly what I wanted to do with my future. So seeing how one student, or honestly, not just one, but many students go from this department to go on to do something that is my dream career was something that just showed me how much Rutgers departments academically could support me to get to where I wanted to be. So Rutgers through and through was a clear choice for me. But as Megan and I talked about this community that we're all about and all the faculty members and students that we've experienced that really create this community, that's the community that we fostered within ourselves that Rutgers naturally does foster. But President Holloway, you talk about the beloved community and this vision that you have for New Brunswick, which takes what we've experienced already a step further. But what does the beloved community really mean? And what's your plan to bring this to New Brunswick?
Thanks for that. So when I was introduced to Rutgers January 21st, 2020, as the next president, and boy, the world looked so different then. We were beginning to hear about a virus of some type, outside the US, not knowing that it was already amongst us. So on that occasion, when I offered an address, excuse me, I talked about my aspiration of making Rutgers a beloved community, which I said, this may sound silly for a place that is as large as Rutgers is, but I believe in being audacious in my ambition for things. And so I wanted a beloved community. I want to develop one. And what that really means is that where we recognize that we share something in common, a community where we all agree and say the same things and think the same things. That would be a boring community. It might be, but you get bored out of your mind, pretty quickly. Beloved community is a place where, going back to my previous answer, with all this diversity of experiences coming together, what an incredible opportunity where people from all over, even if it's just all over New Jersey, because it's the most diverse state in the country, acknowledge they share something in common. That's really powerful, because if say we just disagree deep on something, but if we recognize from the start that you and I both share something in common, the nature of our disagreement will be different. We'll still disagree, but the fact is I see you and you will see me. And that's a really, really powerful phenomenon. I want that to exist, not just amongst the undergraduates. I want the faculty to see their own peers, and I want them to see the undergraduates and grad students. I want to see that. I want that to be done with this. I mean, we know that so many of the people who do the work that keeps a place like Rutgers humming are often considered invisible labor. The people who are cleaning up in a dormitory in an office, the people who are tending to the grounds, the people who might be serving you food or working in the you don't see them at a serving line. Without those people, Rutgers doesn't work. And I think it's really important, ethical standpoint, that everybody in Rutgers recognizes that we are all connected in a way. And frankly, going back to the democratic possibility impulse, the more we recognize we are something, the quicker, the further along the path we are towards realizing something very special. I mean, just think of our nation right now. We're going through really hard in this nation on a whole range of issues. Think about what can happen if recognized, we as people residing in the United States, recognize, we actually share a lot more in common than we don't, because I believe that's the case. And if we acknowledge that, boy, the nature of our conversations will be different. And then we could do more things. We could be a better place. So in thinking about a beloved community is about trying to find a way to make Rutgers a better place. And because we are such a powerful institution, modeling that behavior for the rest of the state, for the nation, and for the world.
Wow, thank you so much for that. not just doing what's convenient. And I think that's where true change comes from, is getting out of our way, outside of our comfort zones, to try to understand someone or empathize with someone. And when you mentioned that there's more that connects us than what makes us different, it does remind me about what I feel makes Rutgers, New Brunswick different from other communities and what makes our community special. And largely, I think that's going back to actually what I've heard from alumni that have come back to speak at various departments at Rutgers, and that's that Rutgers students are all so determined to get to their end goal, and we are all going through something of our own, and that we're alike, and that we're all overcoming some hardship one way or another. And because of that, we can empathize with each other. We can work through our struggles, regardless of what it is. And I remember distinctly that one of the alumni speakers coming back said that he loves to hire Rutgers students in his firm because we all have grit. We're all determined, and we're all willing to do what it takes, because none of us have something handed to us. And I think amongst my peers, even amongst the Scarlet Ambassador team, like with Megan and talking to her, we all recognize that we're all struggling together, but that we'll make it through, and we'll be greater students, greater leaders, and greater individuals after our struggles have ended and we've reached our end goals. But Megan, what about you? What do you think makes us different? And what does this community mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely, Chelsea. And I love when you tell that story about grit, because I always share it with prospective students when I'm not on a panel with you, because I think that story really just embodies what Rutgers students are. That's so true about, having grit. It's not easy, but we're going to get it done. And I think you're so right when you say that about Rutgers students. And, the Rutgers community, just in terms of a student perspective on how to get involved in the Rutgers community, how to feel like you're part of the Rutgers community and you have that place to share your thoughts, share your opinions and everything. I think Rutgers does a great job of giving you so many different opportunities to get involved. One of my absolute favorite days is the involvement fair, which is the day right before usually the first day of classes. And President Holloway, I'm so excited for you to experience this hopefully in the fall, because it's hands down one of the best Rutgers days. And
I was just making a mental note. I've never heard of this day. I mean, this is just new kid on the block.
It's awesome. So what we do is we shut down College Avenue, the actual road on the College Avenue campus. So all the way from, up at the student center, or the rec center, all the way down to the yard is completely shut down. I think there's 700 plus student organizations that come out, put their tables up, and the street is just absolutely packed. Like thousands of students are out there. And it's really like represents what Rutgers is about. All the different clubs you see, all the different organizations. I mean, you have everything from club lacrosse, which I ended up joining, to Greek life, to professional organizations, pre-professional organizations, to social justice organizations. I mean, anything you could think of, there's a table there at the involvement fair. But I remember so distinctly my first year involvement fair. And it feels like you're standing on the edge of Rutgers right before you step into the section where the involvement fair starts. And that has been just one of my favorite memories. I'll never forget that day, because you just go up, you sign up for like 100 different things, and you eventually find your community. And I feel like my Rutgers community really kind of snowballed from that day. I joined the club lacrosse team. I met two of my best friends who are my roommates to this day. One of my club lacrosse teammates and my friends on the team was a Scarlet Ambassador. So I got into this program from that. And so it's just been such a highlight of my career, or of my time at Rutgers, is the involvement fair and going back every year as representatives for my club on that day. So I highly recommend to any prospective students on the call, to you, President Holloway, as well, to go see the involvement fair next fall, because definitely missed out on having that in person this year. And I do want to say, for some students, you come to Rutgers and you might find your best friend on the very first day. You might find that community right away. And for others, it takes some time and you have to be patient. But I always say this to students, and this is what I love most about Rutgers, is that no matter where you come from or where you're going afterwards, there's going to be a place here for you. And, President Holloway, we were just talking about this. We are a strong community here at Rutgers, but there's always more we can be doing, not just in the Rutgers community, but in our country moving forward. We're experiencing really difficult times now due to racial and cultural injustice, and we have a lot of work to do. And I know we're probably all thinking about the recent trial for the murder of George Floyd. And while that verdict was definitely a step in the right direction, as you said in your email to the Rutgers community yesterday, we as a nation have so much work to do to deliver equal justice for all and to build a country that lives up to its own ideals. So our question is, what role does the individual play for the greater good? What can we as Rutgers students and as a Rutgers community do in building up a country that lives up to its own ideals?
Thanks for that question. There's a lot there. In order to answer that question, you have to think of where to start, right? And so I actually think about Megan Involvement Day, which I hadn't even heard of until this live call, since I'm still the new kid on the block, and this year is so exceptional. But metaphorically, I want to lean on that as a way to think about how to answer your question. Involvement Day is an opportunity for you as an individual, a brand new Rutgers student, to start meeting new people, to start just thinking about, do I want to get involved in this, that, and the other thing? Things I've never even thought about doing myself. And then you try to do it. And while I think people often get over-involved from the enthusiasm of their first moment on campus, and something I don't advise, I want to, when those of you who are listening to this, when you come to New Brunswick, I want you to come to Involvement Day, and I want you to start thinking about, these are things I'm passionate about. These are things I don't know anything about. Let me spend some time going over there. And the net result is that you are going to start, I want you to get involved, basically. And I want you to get involved in at least doing one thing that is not part of your experience that brought you to Rutgers. That's not part of sort of who you consider you are. Because that is the path forward to becoming something different. Something new and something better. Even if you're like Chelsea, knew exactly what she wanted to do from the moment she was born, and then is going to head and go off and do that. The fact is, the Rutgers experience is about exploring. And some of that exploration is about confirmation, sure, but a lot of it is about doing something different. When I think, and so I'm talking about the Rutgers experience, yes, but that maps on very neatly to what we need to do to become a better country. We need to get involved. And it can feel utterly overwhelming because there are so many different issues that need addressing. Where to start? And it can be so overwhelming, you can just like, I just can't do it. I can't do anything. I'm going to ask you to do one thing. Just try one new thing, and then meet some new people. And think, wow, I've never thought about it that way. The world can look different than my neighborhood. It can have different arguments than what was being talked about in the family dinner table. It can be something different. It can be something better. The university experience is about becoming better. Even if it's doing the thing you knew you wanted to do, you can do it better, right? So the way we need to think about addressing so many of the challenges that we're facing these days is to take first steps towards being a better citizen. And to me, that means you are going to get involved in something. And ideally, for me, it means something totally new, outside of your comfort zone, because that's how you become stronger. Learning a new skill, develop, through practice, becoming better at it, and finding ways to build a network of people who share something in common, which will be Rutgers, but who are like from all different walks of life. Because if you do that, you're going to have a whole new set of world experiences. You will arrive at better answers. You'll become a better citizen, not just of Rutgers, but of the world. That's how you do it. It's one step at a time, but you got to take the step. It's not easy. I like to say that, I acknowledge that one of my greatest anxieties is walking into a room of strangers. And that's what I do for a living, actually. But the important thing is I never walk out of a room full of strangers, because I met somebody new, and hopefully a lot of people, and I feel better for it. I'm a better person for it. And that will translate into other important work that I and others can do in the world. You can do the same thing. Just take that first step.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally understand what you mean when you say there is such an urge when you come to Rutgers to join so many different clubs and organizations. There's just so much available to you that it's inevitable you feel that. But I think that that's such a great piece of advice for any student to, just do that one thing, take that one step. And when you're talking about like having people's different opinions and coming to Rutgers and kind of realizing that maybe life isn't just as it is at my dinner table, I think that the opportunity Rutgers classrooms give to Rutgers students is just perfect for that, because we have students that come from all over. And I think our professors, especially, my public policy classes, which are really discussion based, where we're talking about the salient policy issues of the day, of the political issues of the day. Our professors do a great job of making sure every student has a seat at that table, feels like they can bring their voice to that discussion, that they have, and if they have an opinion, that they can share it. And so you really do get that. You start to realize, life isn't so simple as it was in the neighborhood, and there are so many different perspectives out there. But at the end of the day, we're all such better students, and more importantly, better citizens for it. And that I think that's so great about Rutgers and our professors and our classrooms. But Chelsea, what are your thoughts on this and experiences with this at Rutgers?
Yeah, so I do have to say I'm guilty of doing the one thing President Holloway told us not to do, not joining too many clubs. I did control myself there, but joining a club that was honestly exactly what I did in high school. I wanted to stay in the comfort zone. I thought, well, I'm already doing new enough stuff being in college. I want some sense of comfort. But after the second year of being in that club and even working in the executive board and being part of leadership, that's when it really hit me after 2 years, was that this is as far as I can offer for the club, and that's as much as the club can offer me, which is when I just switched paths. Well, I went to study abroad, so I went very far, and then I came back to do new things like research that I never thought about doing. So I definitely second all of that advice in terms of doing something that you never thought about doing, because you'll realize very soon that if you stay to do exactly what you thought you would like to do and what you've been doing, is that it's not going to be what it turns out. It's not going to be, you're not going to relive those days, because it's just going to be different at this point. And Megan, I'll definitely echo all the sentiments you said about the faculty members, because I've definitely felt the same way, that all the faculty members and administrative members that I've met along the way have never shied away from any of the issues, especially all of the controversial issues and salient issues, as you mentioned, in the past year. I've always seen messages either from professors of my class or department chairs or President Holloway himself acknowledging the issues of today, acknowledging that these things have happened and that we're working towards changing it. And these are the steps that we can do as individuals, as well as allow outlets for us as students to talk to someone when we're going through a rough time. So I've never felt like I didn't have anyone to turn to besides my friends. There was always someone on every level, administratively or even within departments and faculty members, where I felt like I could talk to them, either have an academic conversation about what policies are going on in political science or things like that, but also be able to just rant sometimes. Well, why is this happening? And have someone empathize that's not just my peers, even though that is very helpful. So with that being said, perhaps one of the biggest impacts that our country has gone through and the biggest impact our community has had on campus is COVID-19. And we have touched on it a little bit, but President Holloway, as you may have been, as I was, and the rest of Rutgers community, we were very proud when we got the FDA approval for the first saliva test for COVID-19. And I was so proud to be a Rutgers student when you saw that on national headlines. But aside from that, what role does the individual play and our community play in the fight against COVID-19?
That COVID-19, that's like the 800-pound gorilla in every room, right? I think I mangled that, but the fact is, we all do have a role to play. I mean, we all have a responsibility. I mean this quite seriously, to be responsible. I mean, the fact is, I don't want to diminish this virus. It can be very dangerous. We know that, but managing it is not that hard. Keep yourself socially distanced. Wash your hands, wear your face masks. We know that these things work. And the fact that they've been politicized in very frustrating ways for me just means that this virus will remain in a very dangerous, disconcerting level for that much longer. We'll all be living with this virus for our lifetimes. It's just the way viruses work. And science is going to help us find a way to manage. It's like we get flu shots every year. It helps us manage these crises. But until we get to the point where we have the kinds of protections of herd immunity and all these other practices in place, it is up to each of us to be responsible. It's really as simple as that. Now, I got COVID. I still don't know how I got COVID, in the sense that I was being incredibly responsible. So there is a roll of the dice element to this sort of thing. I mean, I think it was just picking up takeout food at a diner. I can't think of any other instance. So it can get you anywhere. But the fact is, we know that if you practice these other habits, the chance of getting it plummets really quite quickly. So that's the kind of individual commitment. And frankly, we are committed to opening up in the fall, as you all know. And I feel so sorry for seniors. My God, your senior year? That's not fair. But here we are, right? But next year we're going to open up, and we're going to be able to do it because we're talking about, mandating, not talking, but requiring vaccinations. It's the safest way to come back. And but we will still need to be responsible as we go forward. There'll still be a lot of masks, at least at the start of the school year. There'll still be lots of requests and expectations that as individuals, we need you to abide by, so that we can really come back and offer that full-fledged experience that all of us want to offer and be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like Chelsea said, I'm so proud of how the leadership that Rutgers has shown in this community, in the fight against the coronavirus, not just in, the PCR saliva test, which I think Chelsea said was the 1-year anniversary of its approval last week. And I just read the other day that something like 6 million Rutgers saliva tests have been performed since that FDA approval, which is just monumental in helping us mitigate the spread of the virus. And then, just also the vaccine mandate. I'm just so proud that we are making this decisive, decision to reopen the campus as safely as we can in the fall. And yeah, so I think in terms of the student experience, Chelsea and I can speak to just how COVID has affected that. And of course, it's not ideal. Like you said, I do wish I could come back another year, didn't have to graduate, not having been officially on campus I was abroad actually while the virus broke out. So I haven't been on campus since the fall of 2019. But I do think that our professors have done a great job of making sure that, like Chelsea said, they're still accessible. The students, I have group me's with pretty much all of my classes, which I never heard of the app GroupMe before I became a college student. So if that's you listening to the live stream right now, don't worry, but you should also download it pretty much as soon as possible, because everything's on GroupMe in college. But we've been organizing Zoom meetups, asking each other questions for our classes and everything, which has been great in terms of just making the best of the situation and doing our part to keep the virus from spreading. And Chelsea, what has your experience been like as a student during COVID?
Yeah, so as you said, it's definitely different. I don't think anyone would disagree that they'd rather be on campus, but we may do what we got. And again, as Rutgers students, we're definitely resilient in all of this. I mean, my friends and I, we were just like, hey, let's FaceTime each other and have lunch once a week. And we might be in different areas, but we can still chat about our week, how everything's going. And we did just that. We had game nights every other weekend, something like that, just to stay connected. And more about the social aspect or in clubs. And Megan, I know you're in Club Lacrosse. As the co-president of the Political Science Honor Society, we decided to launch the student organization side of this for the first time during COVID. And a lot of that seems counterintuitive, but we found that there were so many avenues to help students just take their mind off of things, even though we were all Zoomed out. We didn't want to jump on another call, but we were like, hey, come to a current events meeting, just talk about what's going on in the world. And if you agree, disagree, you just want to rant, come and talk your heart out. Or come to our trivia night, just answer some fun questions, win prizes. We gave out prizes for food delivery so they can get a meal on us. And just doing little things like that and being able to have an avenue for entertainment, whether that be online or something like that, was certainly something that plugged the hole at least a little bit into what we were missing socially. And of course, professors being extremely accommodating during this time. And I think the other way as well, Rutgers students being accommodating of their professors, because at the same time, it's not just us as students that missed out on an opportunity. Professors, faculty members we're all thrown into the fire essentially to come up with curricula that would make sense in the virtual world, but still be able to challenge students. And I applaud all of my professors and all the departments for being able to take that up and do the best that they can. And I honestly don't feel like I missed out academically because I was online.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're actually going to start moving into some of the questions that we've received from the audience tonight. So just a reminder, if you do have any questions about anything we've talked about so far, or about anything you're wondering and you want to ask President Holloway, definitely put it in that YouTube live stream chat. And we have a few minutes where you could do a couple of those. But I do see a question for President Holloway here. And the question is, what do I do if I have no idea what major I want to pursue?
You relax, honestly. A lot of parents don't like to hear this, but I love the undecided student when you enter college. Now, you have to pay attention to different areas. Majors or whole fields might have a whole bunch of prerequisites that you got to get on top of pretty quickly. But most of that really starts in the sophomore year, most of it. So if you don't know what you want to do, consider yourself lucky right now, because the world is waiting for you. I mean, think about this. Everything that humankind knows, you're going to find something on this campus that talks to that thing, or all those things, excuse me. What a gift, right? So look, I knew when I got to college, I was going to be a sports orthopedic surgeon. That lasted 6 weeks. Then I remembered, oh yeah, calculus and I are not on friendly terms. Let's think of something else to do. Then I was going to be a corporate attorney. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew that's what I was going to do. And then Chelsea's like, oh my God, this guy's ridiculous. But then in the winter break of my senior year, I talked to my uncle who was doing that stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's not what interests me. Because somewhere along the lines, other things had come to my attention that I found fascinating or curious or challenging. And making a long story short, it was my academic advisor. I was doing my honors thesis with him in my spring year, my spring quarter, senior year, spring quarter, who said, have you thought of getting a PhD in history? And I thought of everything except for that, it seems. And here, I mean, that conversation I had with him 32 years ago this June. He and I were literally trading emails 3 days ago. So I share all that because you don't know, and it's okay. And you can explore. Some of your friends are going to come in, your new Rutgers friends, and they will absolutely know. That's okay too. But just both of you, both types, need to take the opportunity to explore, because you will never have this kind of opportunity again. This incredible freedom with little responsibility to just think and find yourself. It's okay. It really is. You've got plenty of time.
Wow. So we have another question for you, President Holloway, that's related to what you just talked about, since you're mentioning your undergraduate experience. What are some of the clubs you got involved with in college?
Well, I was a scholarship athlete. I played football in college. So that meant I didn't have time for many clubs. And I really, quite honestly, look back at my experience as a little bit impoverished because of that. It wasn't until my senior year when I played football and it stopped at the end of the fall quarter. And I had, quote, nothing to do, just go to classes. For the first time in my undergraduate career, I'm like, well, I've got to do something. I was so used to being programmed, like my whole day programmed. And that's when I explored. So I did it kind of reverse. So I went exploring then, and then very quickly I got involved I'm forgetting what we were called, but we were basically a volunteer service that was outreach to our alumni association. So like phone-a-thons and thank yous and things like that. I don't even know how I got involved in it, but I really enjoyed meeting the people. Then I got involved with, I ended up leading in a group that was sort of Friends for Retired College Faculty. So I do volunteer work. I do like housework once every other week with a professor studied Austrian history. And we would sit around and do yard work, and his wife would bake us a cake, or to be baked, and we sit around and eat cake. And it was the most amazing experience, just getting to see somebody who had gone through all these other experiences well beyond my lifetime. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, when would I have had that opportunity at my fingertips to do those things? I don't know. So, I can't say that I did a ton of clubs, but because the nature of my undergraduate commitments, it was my, football was my work study, frankly, every single day for many, many hours. And then at the last minute, I discovered what my college was.
Yeah. Well, after COVID clears up, maybe Chelsea and I will stop by. You could bake us some cake. We'll do some yard work out on the Bush campus.
You got that confused a little bit, but I'd love to see you in person.
Okay, so we do have one final question before we're going to finish it up. And this question is actually about the Rutgers campus. So Chelsea, do you want to give a quick description of what the 5 campuses are like at Rutgers-New Brunswick?
Sure, and I think this would be a great introduction to President Holloway. Of course, you know Bush very well at this point, but perhaps this description will help you a little bit more as you transition into the on-campus life. So to start with, the Bush campus is home to a lot of our science, technology, engineering, and math majors, home to, of course, those majors of the School of Arts and Sciences, the School of Engineering, as well as the Ernst Mario School of Pharmacy. We also have a lot of sports fields out there. So if you're part of an intramural team or a club team like Megan, you'll probably practice out there. It's like in the middle of that suburban feel. It is very techy, especially when you get towards the labs and like Richard Weeks Hall of Engineering. You really feel like you're kind of in that research atmosphere, but it's not super urban. It's not a lot of traffic. So you still see students like on the lawns having a picnic or something like that. But it's really, you feel the hustle and bustle of research and of course, all the STEM going on that I personally don't understand. But right across from that is the Livingston Campus, which is home to, of course, the Rutgers Business School, which looks like the Transformers building, super modern. All of the alumni that come back on our tours that go through Livingston can never recognize it because of the development of now the new center that's been created, as well as the rack and the whole plaza area. It just seems like a new campus, but it is our most walkable campus, and we have the ecological preserve that's attached to it. So again, it does have that suburban feel, but definitely more modern than Bush, I would say. And then to move on to New Brunswick, we have the College Avenue campus, which is my personal favorite because I really crave that cliche college town atmosphere. I really want it to feel like I was in the middle of a movie, and Voorhees Mall and College Avenue really encapsulates all of that. And I spend most of my time there because all of my classes are there. So if you're part of humanities majors of the School of Arts and Sciences, you'll find most of your classes there. Our School of Communication and Information are also there. So very, very urban feel. You can hear the hustle and bustle of New Brunswick right nearby. And if you want to go down to downtown New Brunswick, it's just a few blocks away. So if you're craving that kind of atmosphere, College Avenue is definitely for you. And to move on to the last but certainly not least, Cook Douglas campus is where our Douglas School is, or the Douglas Women's Program is housed, as well as the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences and Mason Gross School of the Arts. It's just a wonderful atmosphere. I took buses down there just to sit down next to the fountain to just relax, because once you've been in College Avenue for the whole day, you need to take your mind off of things. So Cook Douglas does exactly that. There are just a lot of planes out there for you to sit down and relax. It's definitely the most rural out of all of our campuses. And we even have a fully fledged farm, and the Rutgers Garden is not far from the Cook campus. So that's a little bit about each of the campuses.
Awesome. So that's going to wrap it up for the session tonight. But President Holloway, before we end, we just wanted to get your final remarks or thoughts on the Rutgers community.
Well, I thought, Chelsea, you let me down. I thought you were going to talk about Bush campus as the place where you can see the president walk his dogs in the morning. So the president's house is the closest major landmark is the football stadium and the Rutgers Visitor Center. They form a triangle, essentially. And in the fall, my wife, our son will be off at college. My wife will be home. Right now I have the 2 cats and the 2 dogs, and every morning, somewhere between 7 and 8, I'm out walking the dogs around Bush campus. We are very acquainted with that part of the university.
I'm sure you want to advertise this, but awesome.
Hey, I'm always looking for dog walkers. But No, Chelsea did a really good job describing as I understand them, because it's still new to me, the different feeling of these places. I mean, Rutgers really is its own it's like a series of neighborhoods that come together under this one umbrella. And it is also very large too. So I'm the first, when I moved into our house, I got on a mountain bike. I'm like, I'm going to go discover all of Rutgers. And I came back 45 minutes later to discover I'd only done part of Livingston, and then came home like, this is a big campus. But the fact is, its size shouldn't really be intimidating, because there are niches on every campus that can speak to different parts of who you are, or maybe who you aren't, but that you might become as well. It's a wonderful place, and I cannot wait to meet all of you in the fall.
Well, that's awesome. And, just to wrap up for us, I'm so, like I started this with, I'm so jealous of all the students who are maybe just starting their Rutgers journey tonight, because I'm so excited to see where Rutgers goes next, with you leading us, President Holloway, and us coming back in the fall. And I just think, with the leadership we've shown with the coronavirus pandemic and with this beloved community initiative, Rutgers is just, the only place to go is up. And I'm so proud to be a Rutgers student, and sadly soon to be Rutgers alum. But thank you so much for joining us, President Holloway, for this insightful conversation and discussion. Thank you to my lovely co-host Chelsea, and to everyone listening for all of your comments and your questions throughout the night tonight. I do want to let everyone know that next Monday, the 26th, we will be having another town hall with Chancellor Malloy, where we're going to be answering questions about fall reopening plans for Rutgers-New Brunswick. We're also going to have some faculty from Residence Life and Financial Aid on the call. So if you have any Res Life or Financial Aid questions, definitely keep an eye out in your email inbox. You'll be getting some more information on that in the coming days. And then Chelsea and I and the rest of the Scarlet Ambassador team are always giving virtual tours. So if you want to hear more about the 5 campuses we were just discussing, definitely sign up for a virtual tour with our Scarlet Ambassador team. We're so excited to be showing the Rutgers campus even in this virtual setting. So again, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, President Holloway. Have a great night, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy. Bye.
Bye-bye.